Hi and welcome to another one of my blind whiskey tasting videos. Tonight I'm tasting three 8-year-old peated whiskies from Scotland. The first is an 8-year-old Talisker from the Isle of Skye. Put a picture up there of where Skye is. The second is an 8-year-old from Kilkerran from Campbelltown. And the third is an 8-year-old from Lagavulin, which is from the island of Islay. As with my previous blind tasting videos, my wife will pour and mix all three of the whiskies into these blue Kilkerrans. They're labelled on the bottom, so she'll put the right one in the right glass hopefully, and then she'll mix them up without me seeing. I'll then be able to not tell them apart visually due to the colour of the glass. I'll then nose them and taste them, and I'll see if I can tell you a bit about them along the way. Hopefully I can pick out some differences. I'm still a bit new to this. And then once I've nosed and tasted them, I'll choose a favourite. And then I'll have a stab at which I think is which. I'm not totally confident with this, as they're peated whiskies, so I may not necessarily be able to pick out discernible differences, but we'll see how we go. So, onto the whiskey. Right, so my wife has poured and mixed up the whiskies, so I don't know which is which. Just a heads up, the ABV on the whiskies, the Lagavulin is the lightest, but it's 48%. The Kilkerran is 56.5%, and the Talisker is 59.4%. So I may need some water as we go through the tasting. Right, so onto the first whiskey. I'll put which is which below. Obviously I won't know until the end, but you'll be able to watch along and see which one I'm tasting, as I invariably get it wrong. Right, so this one's quite rich on the nose. Seems really rounded, and it's got a lot of body to it. It's not too medicinal, it's quite earthy, this one. There's a hint of sweetness below, vanilla sweetness. But I'm not picking up much more at this stage, so let's try the next one. Right, this one's quite different. I'm not picking up much in the way of peat or smokiness or earthiness at all. There's a little bit there, but not much. But I am picking up sweetness. There's almost like a sherry sweetness to it, with some vanilla, maybe caramel. That's quite a bit different. Doesn't seem as old. Obviously they're all 8 years old, but that one seems younger on the nose. On to the last one. Right, this one's different again. So I'm quite surprised on the nose. I thought I'd just be smelling the same thing in each glass. Right, there is a sweetness to this, but it's quite light. What I'm picking up on the nose, it's almost like a hint of licorice, but very light indeed. There's a hint of tobacco. Not picking up much more though. But yeah, I'm surprised that they are all noticeably different on the nose. Wasn't expecting that. So let's try the first one on the palate and see what I pick up. Right, before I've even taken a sip, as I'm breathing in, I'm getting that sort of smoky, ashy peat. So this one is giving off quite a bit. Okay, they're all quite high ABV. This one definitely needs some water. There's a real ashy, smoky punch to this one. It definitely gives the taste buds a workout. They're really involved with this one. There's a hint of sweetness there, but the that sort of ashy bonfire, you know, when you're maybe barbecuing and you get that sort of a face full of smoke and you breathe it in, that's exactly what this tastes like. It's really earthy, really natural. It's really nice, but it's got a punch. So I'm going to add some water to it. Not sure how much I'll need to add to get it to where I need to be. If this is the highest ABV one, then it might need a bit, but obviously I can still get a reasonable amount of character. It's not too much, this one, so I may only have to add water once or twice. But let's try this again on the palate. Adding water this time brings out a lot of vanilla sweetness. The ashiness, you know, that real smoky character disappears. Sorry, not disappears. It lightens, but then as soon as you swallow, it comes back and it builds, and there's a hint of spiciness on the tongue. It's not too strong now. At this level, I could drink it. I prefer to leave a decent amount of time between each sip, or if I wanted to drink it quicker, I definitely would have to drink it with some more water. But I'm liking the mouthfeel. It's quite oily. You know, there's a texture to it. It's quite moorish, that one. And the smoke, even though it lingers and obviously it dominates with this one, it's not too strong. Have a sip of water and move on to the next one. Right, so let's give this one a go on the palate. Right, so this one is quite light on the palate to start with. It's very sweet, that sort of vanilla, sort of bourbon influenced sweetness. But it's got a real tingle on the tongue. That pepperiness continues to build, and it's obviously, the alcohol is attacking the tongue and building up and up and up. It's definitely something that needs water for me at that level. Right, so I'm going to have a bit of water to soothe that spiciness, and then I'm going to add some to the glass. Right, so let's try it with a little bit of water. Right, adding water, it's opening this one up. There's more sweetness. I'm also getting a hint of smoke. I didn't really get that the first time. I didn't really get enough smoke character to come through. It's quite light. It's there, but it's still quite light for a peated whiskey or a smoky whiskey. The sweetness is what's dominating with this. But just adding that little bit of water, that pepperiness and spiciness has gone from the finish to a minimum. It's much more palatable. Let's give it another go. Yeah, with this one, it's all about sweetness on the palate, and you don't get the smoke until you swallowed it, and the alcohol evaporates, and those vapours give you the smoke on the finish. It's a sweet smoke, a little bit medicinal, not so earthy. Oh, I'm getting Germolene or hospitals now. That sort of medicinal taste. A lot less smoke than I was expecting from one of these three whiskies. I'll have some water and move on to the last one. Right, so let's see what this one's like. Right, so this one is quite sweet. There's a hint of toffee. There's a hint of cough sweets. There's not much smoke to it, just like the second one. But I am getting smoke first time, which I didn't with the second one. The finish has got a little bit of spicy tingle to the tongue. Obviously part of that's bound to be the higher ABV that these whiskies are at. But it's different again, so they're all different on the nose, they're all different on the palate. I'm going to add some water to the final one and give it one last try. Okay, if anything, that's made the finish spicier. It's really weird. The that medicinal tang with this one, it's quite familiar, but I can't put into words what it is it reminds me of. Not sure if it's a food or a drink, but it's something. I just can't verbalise it. If it comes to me, I'll mention it. But it's a different kind of sweetness, this one, to the second one, and nothing like the first one. So as the prickliness, that sort of prickly heat, has built up, adding more water, obviously still haven't found the sweet spot for that one. So I'm going to add a bit more and give it one last go. Right, let's see if I get anything different. The palate's quite oily with that. Now I've added some water. That prickly heat on the finish has disappeared. The medicinal tone has gone down slightly, but there's not much smoke at all. It's more sweetness followed by the lightest hint of smoke. So I suppose I've got to work out which of these is my favourite. I think in terms of what I was expecting, even though these are relatively young whiskies from fairly big whiskey producers, I was expecting they'd all be like the first one, quite smoky, quite punchy. The first one's obviously the only one that's delivered the sort of character I was expecting. I wasn't expecting sweetness to dominate like the second and third one. So I'd say my favourite is this one here. I'd say my second favourite is probably this one here. So number 2, and my least favourite is number 3. But I've no idea which could be which, because I suppose I don't have enough experience with 2 of the 3 whiskey brands. So let's just have a stab in the dark. I think the smokiest, and I may be completely wrong, I think the smokiest was the Kilkerran. I think the second was the Talisker. I think the third one was the Lagavulin. Am I right? So, expecting this one to be the Kilkerran. No, the one with the punchiest smoke was the Lagavulin. Very surprised. I wasn't expecting it to have that sort of character. The second one, did I say the second one was the Talisker? I think so. So I think this one is the Talisker. And it is the Talisker. So that's one right, and I thought this was the Lagavulin. And that must be the Kilkerran. So 1 out of 3 right. This was more a journey into learning flavours without knowing what they are, rather than trying to pinpoint which was which. But my favourite, surprising to me, was the Lagavulin 8-year-old. So, is this the best 8-year-old peated whiskey? Well, it's for me out of these 3. Stauncher. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, why not give it a like or a comment, and please consider subscribing for more videos like this.